Hey Diego, what's up? But dude, we know you have muscles. You don't have to make a showdown. But we all know you'll never look like David later. But look at this. This is majestic. But don't feel bad. It's not because of your aesthetics, but basically because of your genetics and DNA, which makes you actually unique. I'm sure you don't understand what I'm saying because I know you slept in class, but no worries. Today, we're going to do a microscopic journey to understand what genetics is, so you don't keep being the same dumb as always. So, Diego, genetics is a branch of biology that studies how biological information is stored, transmitted, and used. It's like studying a recipe. In simple terms, genetics explains why you are the way you are. It explains why do you resemble your parents, why there are inherited diseases, why there's so much diversity among people, and why you get a lot of belly fat eating vegetables while your friend can eat a whole cow without getting a single... Okay, that's a personal problem. I'm sorry. Well, genetics does not study opinions, music tastes, or questionable decisions made at 3 in the morning. That's still not investigation. But it studies the main quest of this character called DNA to become a protein. In the nucleus of almost every cell in your body, you'll find DNA. Well, DNA, short for deoxyribonucleic acid, is an extremely long molecule whose primary function is to store information. Information that tells your body how to grow, how to develop, how to repair itself, and how to function. Basically, how to do everything. Okay, Joe, I cannot tolerate this. Take out that outfit, you're not a nerd. Structurally, DNA has the shape of a double helix, like a twisted ladder. Each step of the ladder is formed by a sugar, a phosphate, and a pair of nitrogenous bases. These bases are adenine, that goes along with thymine, and cytosine, that goes along with guanine. These are the basic components of life. As they're also the language of life, maybe Duolingo will add it to its platform. I hope it does, and imagine having a reminder of I know. But anyways, as DNA is so long, it is divided in segments. A gene is a specific segment of DNA that contains the information necessary to produce a specific protein. Think of it as a railroad. The entire railroad is the DNA, and the segments of the railroad are the genes. And genes do not do these things directly. They give instructions, and someone else does the work. And yeah, I know, Diego, it seems like genes are living your dream of being a king. Although DNA is extremely long, it does fit inside the nucleus, thanks to a very efficient packaging system. FedEx, you can take some notes. This is where histones come in. Histones are proteins around which DNA wraps. DNA plus histones form structures called nucleosomes. This system allows DNA to become more compact, stay protected, and regular access to genes. DNA is not wrapped randomly. It's dynamically organized, allowing the cell to decide which genes are going to be used and which ones are not. This nucleosome structure enables DNA to be efficiently organized into chromosomes. Humans have 46 chromosomes in each cell, arranged in 23 pairs. Each pair contains one chromosome inherited from the mother and one inherited from the father. Even though DNA is extremely long, it does fit inside. Now that we know how DNA is organized in the cell, we can begin the journey of turning DNA into a protein. Alright, let's start with that. That guy with the black shirt is a machine called RNA Polymerase. He, with transcription factors, unzips the DNA tracks just enough to read the hidden code inside. Then he runs down the track, he builds a temporary copy called messenger RNA, which is the red strand. He swaps the DNA letter T for U and creates a message and leaves, basically. This RNA that was just synthesized is kinda similar to DNA, but it's not exactly the same. First of all, we have a difference that this one is single-stranded, while DNA is a double helix double-stranded. This one has one sugar called ribose, while DNA has deoxyribose. And RNA uses uracil U instead of thymine T.
Laying my rendezvous with Star Command. You are
mRNA.
You weren't the real
DNA. Smaller copy of a DNA made through transcription. That's meant to serve as a messenger.
Okay, Let's imagine this way. If transcription was copying the recipe, translation is actually cooking it. So, it all starts with our just synthesized run of mRNA. Our strands find a ribosome. Think of the ribosome as a giant with superb protein making machine. The chef. It clamps onto the mRNA strand and starts reading it, 3 letters at a time. These 3-letter chunks are called codons. So, floating around the cell are the delivery trucks, called the tRNA. Each truck carries 2 things: a specific amino acid, let's think of it as an ingredient, and a key that only fits a specific 3-letter code to the mRNA. If the recipe calls for salt, only salt truck can plug in. As the ribosome moves down the strand, it hooks its ingredients together one by one. It's like snapping a Lego bricks together. The first amino acid connects to the second to the third, and so on, forming a long chain. Once the ribosome hits the stop code, it's let it go, let it go. So that long chain of ingredients folds up into a complex 3D shape and voila! La proteína.
El macho.
Okay. You remember we were talking about codons? Well, codons are not random. They follow a universal rulebook called the genetic code. Think of the genetic code as a dictionary or a translator, literally, or Duolingo, but for molecules and without guilt of notifications, There are 64 possible codons, but only 20 amino acids. So yeah, some amino acids gets more than one codon. Deal with it. For example, let's search for AUG. We just got it. It is MET, and MET stands for methionine. If we were searching for another codon, we will follow exactly the same process. Well, Diego, I see you're eating a delicious salad. I guess #healthy? But yeah, you remember genetics play a role in metabolism, so don't get surprised if you add weight even eating salad, like #genetics? But no worries, we're about to explain this and the question at the start of the video. And the proteins we just talked about has a lot to do with it. But first, let's start talking about alleles. An allele is simply a different version of the same gene. Each person has 2 alleles per gene, one inherited from the father and one inherited from the mother. The alleles are at the same locus on both chromosomes. In genetics, we use a capital letter to determine the dominant allele and a lowercase letter to indicate the recessive allele. For example, in plants, height is controlled by a single gene that has 2 alleles. Let's say height is controlled by gene T. The dominant allele, capital T, produces tall plants, while the recessive allele, lowercase t, produces short plants. Each plant inherits 1 allele from each parent, resulting into 2 alleles per gene. If a plant has the allele combinations capital T, or capital T, lowercase t, it will be tall because the dominant allele masks the recessive one. But only plants with the combination lowercase t, will be short. Just to go a little deeper in genetics, let's learn these 2 definitions together. First, we have trait. A trait is a heritable characteristic that can vary among individuals. A phenotype is the observable or measurable expression of a trait. Simply, for example, eye color is a trait, so the phenotypes can be brown, can be blue, can be green, for example. Height is a trait, so if someone is 6 foot, 5'8", 6'5", that's their phenotype. So, in the same way, if a gene controls only one characteristic, this trait is called discrete, as in the example we saw with plants, height in plants. However, there's also cases where multiple genes determine a single characteristic. This is called a polygenetic trait. For humans, it's almost always the case. So answering the question of why someone gets more belly fat than others following exactly the same diet, following an exercise routine, it's because the proteins resulting from different alleles in different individuals can modify your fat distribution and metabolism, modifying, for example, hormone receptors, enzyme controlling fat metabolism, signaling proteins, etc., etc. So yeah, our different alleles are the things that make us different and so unique. So don't feel bad if you don't have the same physique as your favorite fitness influencer, or if you don't have the same eye color as others. I just showed you through genetics how unique you are and how amazing person you are. So never get distracted by comparisons, because in this world, no one is exactly the same as another. Or are we? How about twins genetically? Well, that's topic for another video. Bye bye, Diego. Have a nice day.